Hey, welcome to the first episode of Modern Photography Group's Shoot Review. I'm Brunson, the owner of Modern Photography Group. And before we get started, if this is your first time looking at my page on YouTube, if you go down there and subscribe real quick, and also if you can swing on over to Facebook and look us up there at Modern Photography Group, our page is there also. So we're going to be doing shoot reviews, and my purpose of shoot reviews is to let people know how I'm shooting, whether it be portraits, an event, or whatever, and then let them know what equipment I use. A lot of times when people are starting out in photography, and I've had 3 calls this month of February already about instruction, and people haven't even purchased a camera yet. And their basic question is, what camera should I purchase, and what do you shoot with? Well, here's the difference. And I always ask them a simple question. Are you trying to be a photographer? And they're always like, no, I'm a hobbyist. So the first thing I say is any camera that's about $500 to $700 at Target. Canon has a TI series, I believe, and Nikon has another series. And maybe you can get a Sony camera. But around that range, if you want to be a hobbyist, it's going to be a nice kit. It's going to give you a couple of lenses, and it's going to have an on-camera flash. So that should take care of your general duties. So that's the first thing that I answer. And then when they want to, take lessons, we charge a certain amount per hour, but we don't overcharge them in the beginning, because that first lesson is just going to be so overwhelming. So normally what I do is just send them a copy of some general stuff that I actually shared when I taught classes at the St. Petersburg College here locally in Tampa Bay. So I share that with them first, have them go through it, direct them to YouTube, and let them get started. So in my first episode, I want to go over what I shoot when it's not events, when it's just I get called out for a job, and somebody says, I want some great photography. That's usually what they say. I want some great photography. So the first thing I shoot with is the Canon 6D. Again, the reason I chose this camera is because it's excellent in low light, and I shoot a lot of low light stuff. And the body itself was half the price of the 5D. And to me, when it came to buying bodies, because I bought 2 at the same time, it came down to just simple economics. And what I did was, we were already shooting with the Canon 50D, which is a great camera, and it's still a workhorse for us. But we wanted to go full frame, but just investing that $3,000 mark for the body alone just wasn't something that I was willing to do at that time, which was a couple of years ago. So, and even today, I probably would still stick with the 6D, because it gives me exactly what I want. Now, if somebody can justify the $1,500 boost for the 5D, and I could see it based on how I shoot, then I would probably buy it. But at this point in time now, I love the 6D and what it does for us. So I shoot with the 6D first, and I also shoot with the kit lens that came with it. So I don't use a lot of specialty lenses. And the reason I don't is because specialty lenses just take time to learn. And if you're learning your style, or learning what you want to shoot, going out and buying a bunch of lenses is it's just not going to work. So I would say, just stick with a kit. And so on my 6D here, I use the 24 to 70 when I shoot. Now, I also have another body that's a 6D body, and that uses the 70. It's the power horse here, the 70 to 200 lens. And the reason that I bought 2 bodies at the same time was because the 70 to 200 lens never comes off that body. I bought it for that. It came off once or twice, just knock some dust off. But other than that, it stays on there, because that's such an expensive lens that taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on, it was just not worth it. And I don't shoot a huge dynamic range of photography to be changing that often. So those are my 2 camera bodies. And some tips on what else I use. I also use the Canon 580EX flash. Now there is the Yagnuo, hopefully I'm saying that right, brand of flashes, and I have experienced them, and I've purchased them, but I still like the 580, the Canon 580EX. I do have the 600 RTs, and I like those, but I'm really comfortable with the 580EX, so I stick with those, and I use two of those when I go out and shoot. So when I'm going out and shooting, I use those, and that's pretty much my basic setup. Now, what type of light stand do I use? If you go on YouTube, there's this great, not YouTube, but if you go on eBay, there's this great stand, and if you can just type it in, heavy duty boom stand, boom photography light stand. And it's this stand that has a little, like, I have them set up right now, but it has a little like rigging in it where you can tilt it, you can boom it, you can raise it really, really high, almost 10 feet up, and it's heavy duty, and it has a wide base. I use that one now exclusively for my flash, because when I go out on location, I just needed more than a general flash stand. So I needed a wider base and all the other stuff. Plus, on the boom stand, it has two attachments where you can put two flashes. And so recently I was working with kids and adults, and so I had to have one high and one middle just for the kids, and instead of screwing one on, screwing one off, I just put both of them on the rig, turned one off, and then shot with the one up top with the adults, and then shot with the one that was lower when I was just shooting exclusively the kids. So those are basically what I shoot with, and so, you know, that's just my kit. Now, the extra things that I shoot with, for me to be successful on a shoot, are a couple of things. One are these like dust type towels here. And I get these from Walmart. And the blue rim from Walmart, and then the orange ones come from Target. So basically they're used to knock... to clean your cars and keep the surface really nice. Now, I don't grind in the lens and do all this stuff, but I use these to just knock dust and dirt off instead of using my hand or my shirt or anything like that. I just shove it through a belt loop, and it's just right there for me to use. That's additional in my kit. Also, for me personally, I sweat a lot on a shoot. So I buy a bunch of these headbands. I used to just rip a towel and wrap it around, but for some reason, I could be in air conditioning and I'm out there, you know, really, really sweating. So now, to just up my level of professionalism, I've gotten headbands. So that's the next step. And I got them in all flavors. I got them off of eBay. I think they were like $1 something. And I just bought a bunch of them because they're really thin, but they absorb the sweat. So those are the things that are in my kit. Now, the next thing that's in my kit too, that most people don't think about, is I have an elbow pad. Okay. Especially when I'm working with kids or I want low angles. It's one thing to squat, but sometimes you have to get down like lower to get that great shot. And you're going to be leaning on your elbow. And if you're on the beach a lot like I am, you know, that gets irritating after a while. So I just put this on, boom, there. And so I don't use that a lot, but I use it enough. The next thing I use all the time is knee pads. And they're in my car right now, so I don't have them. But I use these knee pads, and I got them from Home Depot, and they were about $25 to $30. But they have the dual straps up top. They're thick. They bend with you. They really look like knee braces. But they were in the tile section. So if you're tiling floor, they were in that section. Don't get the ones with the hardcover knees, because if you're on a hard surface and you're on your knees, your weight, or my weight, will actually crack those. So I went through a couple of pair of those until I found these. These are soft too. And also another thing with them, I was able to shoot some dance groups at the halftime of the Orlando Magic game, and I had to use my knee pads. And the one thing that saved me to use my knee pads was they were soft. If I would have had those hard ones, they wouldn't have let me kneel on the floor, because I had to kneel on the floor edge, and he was concerned about them scratching. So they looked at them, they were soft, they passed. He was like, that's fine, you can go ahead and do that. So that was just an additional thing too. So when I go out and shoot, those are the things that I have. I do have like a huge backpack. It's a low pro backpack. Of course, it's expensive, but I go between the small Canon when I'm taking out just this camera, between the small Canon bag and my larger backpack. So that's what I shoot with. Also, going back to the flash, I do shoot with the Yagnuo flash triggers. I exclusively shoot with these. They work. They fire it. So I use this one here. You can see that. And this goes on top of my camera. And then I use this one to trigger flash. Now, these can trigger multiple. And I have a bunch of these. And they take AA batteries. No, AAA batteries. And then this one takes a specialty battery. Here, there's not a battery in there. But the cool thing about everything that I do and I shoot, I make sure that if I'm in a bind, wherever I'm going, I can stop by and purchase a battery or a set of batteries. So that's kind of how I do it. I always look at like batteries. So if it's a AAA, I know that if say I run out of power, I can run to the corner store and get some AAAs. Also with this battery here, they sell this in Target. They sell it in Home Depot. They sell a lot of specialty batteries in those areas. So just make sure that when you're designing your kit and putting things together, make sure you look for those things that are going to be convenient for you. Because if you're out on the road, you definitely don't want to have to, when you run out of battery power, go, well, this store doesn't have it and it's a special order item. So just be careful of that. Most of the stuff you don't have to worry about that, but some things can get a little tricky. But other than that, that's pretty much my kit. So this is episode 1. That's my kit that I shoot with. From here on out, episodes are going to be about some of the things that I shoot with. But they're also going to be reviews, which we call it the shoot review, of photo shoots that I've done. And you're going to see images in the beginning. You're going to see me talk about them. And then you're going to see a follow-up. So other than that, this is episode 1. Thank you guys for watching. Look for episode 2 soon.